Surely they're not going to take a picture of me.
Just as sure as you're sitting
This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project for the Library of Congress.
I got one in my album.
The veteran's name is Vivian Smith.
Yeah.
They were born July 24th, 1924. She served in the Navy in Korea. She achieved the rank of Lieutenant Commander. We were recording this on March 15th, 2014. I'm Will Hines and I'm conducting this interview.
1923.
No relation.
24, okay.
So Miss Vivian,
Yeah.
where did you grow up and kind of your background before?
Right in this county.
Right in this county?
I had 2 brothers and 5 sisters, or 4 sisters.
Which is Polk County, North Carolina.
Pardon?
Polk County.
Yeah, Polk County, North Carolina. In fact, I lived there till I graduated from high school. And went from here and didn't come back for a long, long time.
Really?
I was gone for years and years and years and years and years.
She went through nurses training in Rockland, North Carolina.
We all,
They
that
were all
brother and
nurses.
this one, my sister-in-law, we sort of came back together. They're there and they're there and she's there and I'm here and it's sort of a mixed up situation.
So where did you go to high school?
Where?
Where
High
did
school?
Mm-hmm.
Right here at Green Creek.
And did you walk to class or you walk to school?
Oh, they had buses.
They had buses?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, I said, did y'all walk to school?
No,
How far away was
actually, we had a school bus.
it? One school bus?
Well, when I going our way, it was on the one, and that took us. It went all over the county, practically over here, didn't it?
Yeah,
Coffee? And we'd all
the high school children and grandma kids all went on
girls
the
and
same
2
bus.
boys.
Really?
Uh-huh.
So when did you join the Navy?
1950.
And what made you join the Navy?
Round about the world was where I needed to go, so that's where I went. United States, out of the United States, nice long trips. When we weren't busy, we'd go to the Japanese Alps, or we'd go here, we'd go there, we'd go someplace else. Very interesting world, too.
So you went and enlisted with your sister?
I joined the Navy with my sister. We didn't enlist, we were officers.
Oh, commissioned. So you went to a Navy training school? Is that
Absolutely, it was at in New York. It was on an island in New York, and it was supposed to be about a year, but we stayed 10 months, and we were ready to transfer on. So they transferred us to a hospital where we stayed for a while, and then this war was going. But this time, I went in before the war started, and then we were sent to different stations. My sister and I were sent to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. That's the Marine Corps base. Stayed there 2 years. It was good duty, but it was hard work because the casualties started coming. And if they were on our area, they went to Camp Lejeune. If they weren't somewhere, they went someplace else. And then we were there a little over 2 years and went to the hospital ship. Had to go to the West Coast, where the hospital ship picked up the ones that were okay to go. We had 13 nurses.
13 nurses on one hospital ship?
Yeah, you realize how many patients were on that ship? We had 250 corpsmen, and we had 12 doctors. And we had beds for over 1,000 patients. Now think about 1,000 patients and being to see them. So we went, my sister and I went to the West Coast and got on the ship, and we went directly to Korea from there. And we stayed about a year and a half, and the ship had to go and dry dock because it was needing a little checkup, just like people do. And we traveled home, and we had 1,000 patients on that. We had day and night, and we had 3-level beds. The better men were on the top as you come down. The sickest ones were on the bottom because they required more care.
Right.
And we stopped over in, we had to go around and pick up patients down on the coast because we weren't allowed to go. They had civilians and all that to pick them. So we had to go down, pick them up. And we loaded the ship and went to Japan, finished loading, and came home. And we had, stop me when I'm set enough, we had we had to work at Camp Lejeune. It was a 2 month, it stayed in dry dock 2 months, so we worked at Camp Lejeune. And they called us and said, come home, we're moving, we're gonna sail such and such, give you 3 or 4 or 5 days. So we got on an airplane and went and took back to our ship. And we pulled out about 2 days.
So did you have a lot of the combat wounded on your ship?
Oh yes, it was all.
All combat wounded?
And we were not permitted on land in the Korean War. We had to go out in the stream. We're about 3 miles out in the stream because where the ships parked, that's not the word, but
Anchored.
they could not get in that. The ship was so big and wide. There's a picture of it out on the wall in there if you're interested. It was too big, it was too loaded, and we had to be out in the stream. It was also safer from the standpoint of the enemy overhead airplanes than it was in the, so we were about 3 miles out in the stream. And that, if you went over to the land, you went by boat. And they had a...
Did you ever go on land in
Oh,
Korea?
yes, indeed I did. They had an orphanage there, Catholic orphanage, and we all went and helped the men and the women, everybody went and helped sister. They had been bombed.
Wow.
And the orphanage was almost on the ground, and all the men that could build and all the women that could clean and diaper babies and all that stuff, we all went over there when our off-duty time and helped sister get it back to, she's a lovely lady. She was a foreign woman, but she spoke good English. She wasn't English, but she was something else. But anyway, all the time we stayed there, we went and diapered babies and all that. So as well as taking care of our own patients, we have to take care of those little orphans, and they were precious, every one of them. There's one little girl named Jacqueline, I never will forget her, darling, she's a little foreign child, dark skin, brown hair, beautiful voice. And she would sing to us in her native language as well as in English. Gorgeous child. Nobody ever adopted her. I never did understand that. But she was so sweet. And sister, I have a little handkerchief that sister made. Bought her little squares and did embroidery and everything for each individual person of the nurses, and I've had it for years and years and years. So go ahead. I talk all the time.
Oh, no, ma'am. I love these stories.
He tells me to shut up, and so I do.
So
I say, oh, shut up.
I really want to hear a lot about your experiences on the hospital ship. As in, you woke up, how much sleep did you get at night? You know, did you work through the night and just change shifts?
Depended. Now, during the daytime, we had 3 shifts. In other words, I'd be on from 7 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and somebody else would take on, be on 4 till midnight, and midnight to take on it. But you didn't always have that midnight. I worked around the clock 2 days without sleeping. My doctor was too. He was an older fellow, and I was very fond of him. He's a fat little chubby fellow. And
Me.
so, what you laughing at?
I said, that sounds like me.
Oh, he was talking, he's from the West, Midwest, some sweetest man in the world. And he stayed with us all night. I don't care if we worked all night, all day, or the next week too, he would come. And they called me Miss Vivian, Mildred, Miss M, so that people, we looked a little bit alike, but she was pretty. But anyway, the doctor, I would hear him coming shuffling, and he was a fat little man, but smart. Oh, he was smart. He'd come and say, Miss V, I'm here. What do you need done? And I said, well, Captain, that man over there's got to be bathed. He's got blood all over him. He said, I'm trying to give him a bath. He'd get his little basin and go in there, man, have the best bath and all this. Here's this commander, captain, bathing this patient. He gave in and said, what else we need to do? We need blood from over 10 people back there, Captain. Okay, I'll draw it. He said, you know I can do anything you can do. I said, really? I go, Captain, what's with you? But he was a darling man. And about 3 o'clock, he says, well, I got to go over and see about Miss M. And I said, well, he said, where is she? And I said, she's over there with all those head injuries, Captain. She needs help. And so with a little pitty pat fat cap. Off he'd go, and he'd go over there, and people with head injuries are bad patients. They're not bad patients, they're very ill patients. That captain could calm them down, he could rub backs, he could smoke a cigar if they were smoking, and whatever else was going on. And he'd stay, and I'd see him about 7 or 8 o'clock going back, and he said, "Now, Miss Vivian, I'll be back here tonight to help you." And I said, "Okay, Captain," and there he'd come pick back. He didn't have to do that, but he did it.
Wow.
Was it hard seeing a lot of the combat injuries and a lot of the combat victims
yes,
being around them all the time?
We had to separate them according to their injuries, and we had 2 or 3 head places for them, sections, and they were always full. And they cried. People with head injuries cry a lot. I didn't realize that. And I'd go along, and these Marines would have these big tears in their eyes, so I'd stop them kind of comfortable, but they weren't with the program, so it didn't really matter. But they knew that somebody cared enough to come by and say hello. So, but it would be funny. Some of the things would be funny then too. Oh, listen, they pull more things on the nurse than you can possibly think. Until they're near death, you better watch them because they were going to pull the wool on your eyes. They thought, but they never did. But I'd go by and they'd have tears in their eyes, and that would be very sad. But
Did you lose many patients? Did they die on the boat?
oh yeah, they was like dying at home or dying any other place, and we had to get them ready. Usually they flew them into Japan or somewhere, and they'd take them from their home to the United States. So, and you had a certain number. Say you had 1,050 patients. A certain number of those were head, a certain number of us had lost arms, legs, and so forth. And some of them were just wounds, abdominal wounds. And, I'd never seen a wound in the abdomen until I went to the, and oh, they're devils, though. Listen, those Marines, you better walk. I kept hearing this ping, ping when I go near the, what in the world is that? So I said to the doctor, they keep saying, ping, ping, what is that, doctor? Well, they were picking the shrapnel out of their legs, and they were pinging it up against the wall. Listen, you can't trust them a minute. And they were pinging it up against the wall, making a sound. And I had never seen that. So, okay, one old Marine sergeant, I said, "Show me how you're doing that." He had it all over his legs, and he'd just, and ping it over. Listen, they're getting more, they don't get into trouble, but they're constantly keeping themselves busy doing something that they don't need to be doing. But I tell you, never knew what they were going to do.
Did you share a room with a lot of the nurses, or kind of what?
It was one room, honey. It was a little cuddy hole in the wall. We had, yes, my sister and I. They always put us together because they knew that we would work out the problems of getting whatever and doing honey. But it was about as big as my laundry room back there. And we had double-decker beds, and they were built. It was like I don't know, it's metal. And it was, and you had to have a ladder to go to bed at night. Miller and I swapped, but I usually was on the top. And we had a little place for our valuables, a tiny little closet. We didn't have many valuables, a tiny little closet about that size to hang your clothes. Well, you had nothing but uniforms. And then they had a little tiny place for you to write letters, and a bathroom that you could only go to the bathroom, but you'd have to go 2 miles down the hallway to take a bath. So anyway,
would you be able to take a bath in fresh water or salt water?
Well, it was ocean water, but it been purified or done whatever.
They salt her on the ship.
Oh, really?
Their ship.
He took a lot of baths over in that part of the country, but
Hell, I didn't take many.
well, if you didn't have to, it was good.
How was the food on the ship?
Well, the food was good. It was typical, a lot of it canned, like milk. I'm a milk drinker, or used to be. But I drank that milk just the same. It was canned in big old cans about like that. And so we just opened it up, put it in the boys' glasses all the way down the way, and that's what we had too. We'd stop. All right, when we left the United States and went to Hawaii, we'd stop there and refuel, resupply, water, milk, food, all kind of food, medicines, and everything that we would need till we got to the next station. When we got to the next station, we were already in the war zone. So it had to be brought to us by ship, and we were out in the stream, so they could unload it there fairly quickly. So it wasn't really a problem. And we had the same food like you would have if you were sitting at your own table, except it was canned most usually. Now when we were in Hawaii and we were going to Korea, we got good food. We got, as long as it lasted, vegetables and all that sort of stuff, lettuce, and which we didn't have just when you were in the war zone.
How was it living on a ship for 3 years?
I loved it. I knew I was going somewhere the next day. You might not be in Hawaii now the next day. You might be going around Japan or around somewhere to pick up somebody or something like that, or they were being flown to you.
Were you aware of where your next destination was going to be?
No,
Did they tell?
I said, as long as the ship's going, I'm going, and so I did.
They would go to Beipu, Japan. That was one of their stations, transfer stations. And go from Beipu back to Korea or even Beipu to the States.
I'm sorry, Pop. When I was sick recently, I fell and broken both my arms, and I was this, that, and the other. Crazy lady. But anyway, my niece came. She's a nurse from Huntsville, Alabama. So she took over, she thought. Well, when I got here, they had a bed in there for me that you could roll up and all that. I didn't need that because I was up walking around and stuff like that. But I said to her, I am going to get rid of that bed today. And I said, I'm going to call them this morning. So I called and told them I had this bed and I didn't need it. So they said, well, we'll send for it today, Miss Smith. Began to get dark and they still hadn't sent for it. So I guess they said, well, she probably would keep that bed if she did. This man walked in, said, oh, Miss Smith, I'm so glad to see you. He said, do you remember me? He said, I remember you and your sister both. So we had the ship was docked close enough to the shore. We couldn't go up to park it in the thing for sailing them. But they had this thing that was like a shoot over. You could put something on a pulley and it goes from where you are to where you want to go on the shore. Well, we had transport patients from a hospital ship to an airplane, and that's the way we sent them over.
Wow.
So you sent them over the water.
It was like an electrical line and put it over to where it wanted. Well, this man apparently was badly wounded, and my sister and I put him on board that thing. We took him to the little boat there and on that thing and put him over on the shore. And they picked him up and sent him home. And that's the first thing he said when he walked to the house. Oh, I'm so glad to see you. He said, where's your sister? And I told him she had been sick and had died. And he said, well, I sure do miss her. But isn't that interesting?
Wow, that's incredible.
This numbers of years.
Will, and I hate to interrupt, but
That's
Uncle
all right.
Carl and I were talking about this the other day, and I mean, this is truly fascinating in itself, the number of nurses in our family. And it started with her aunt, which was my great aunt. She was a nurse, and then there was 5 girls in her family, 7 of them altogether, 5 girls and 2 boys. 4, only my mother was the only one of the girls that did not end up being nurses.
Wow.
And my daughter is a nurse, and
Really?
so we have a long tradition, and Uncle Carl's granddaughter is she's studying now to be a nurse practitioner.
That's great.
And we don't know how far it's going to go, but apparently we come from a long line of caregivers.
Yeah.
So when I start to bore you, you just.
Oh, no, ma'am, you're not.
Stop.
I really like hearing about this stuff.
I know. Listen, I was there a long time.
So you
were.
and your
Yeah.
sister decided, you want to travel the world,
That's
and
right.
you joined the military in order to do that.
Now, I graduated from college in nursing school, and I worked at the General Hospital. It was a small hospital then. It wasn't much of a hospital, but we worked. And so I said, well, this is ridiculous. Why don't I get me a good job? So I'm going to join the Navy. So I go down. I put myself on a bus and go to Atlanta. And so I went. I didn't know where the Navy Department was. There a bit more than nothing. So I kept asking, and finally I got there. And the nicest commander was a female officer, and she was a nurse, and she was in charge of that part. And I told her I had come from Spartanburg and I wanted to join the Navy. And she asked me all about my education, where I went to school, and blah, 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 blah. I had all this, had it down. And she said, now, Miss Smith, you know that we only take certain months of the year or so forth and so forth when the graduations are over or something like that. So she said, but I'll be calling you in a couple months. So Mildred was in Florida working, and she said, where were you yesterday? And I said, well, I went to Atlanta, and I joined the Navy. And she said, you what? And I went to Atlanta to join the Navy. She said, I'll be up there tomorrow. So she about 2 days later, she drove up. And she said, she said, come on, let's go. I'm going to Atlanta, join the Navy. So I said, oh, okay. So she drove, and off to Atlanta we went. And so the Southside nurse I did, and they said, hang tight, we're going to be in about 2 months getting in the Navy. Had to know all the background, how many mamas and daddies you had, how many brothers and sisters you had. Were you broke? And I said, oh yeah, I'm always broke, but anyhow.
Yeah, that's a tradition in our family too.
Anyhow, she said, we'll put you in the Navy in a little while. Well, about 2 weeks, we were called to the United States Navy.
Wow.
So I think we had to borrow money to get there. We had to go to New York. And so we got a train out of Spartanburg, and it left about 8 o'clock at night. But we were in New York the next morning anyway.
Wow.
Now, 2 people that never been to New York, that's very frightening. They pull a lot of wool on your eyes because they think this is a stupid one. We can take care of her. But anyhow, we had to stay there until it got daylight. It was kind of still not daylight, and we took our luggage and stood there and waited. So up pulled this Navy vehicle and walked straight to us and said, are you the Smith girls? And we said, yes, we are. He said, come on, you're joining the Navy now. We're going out on the island. So we went pitter-paddle out, and he took us to the island where we were supposed to be. And we had joined the Navy.
Wow.
So stayed there about, we did New York about 10 months because you had to learn a lot of things that you had to do or you could not do, were not permissible, and blah, 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 blah. And so we didn't get paid for a month. And Mira and I did not have any money, much. Nobody to borrow it from, not even him. But they said, I think they gave us a little money that, you know, they paid us something and then we were broke. And we had to buy uniforms, and those uniforms were expensive because they were made in New York right there.
You had to buy uniforms?
Oh, yes, indeed. They didn't give us our clothes. For officers now, enlisted personnel, they get their clothes. But you had to have a dress uniform, dress shoes, hat, and it had to have the uniforms with your rank on them. And we were the lowest rank it could be right then. But we did it and lived on it. We were so glad when we got paid. They paid it you directly, and it was money. It was not a check or anything. But after you'd been out a while, it came by check and rotated through, and it was no problem. And we had to pay for our meals.
Really?
Officers have to pay for their meals, sure.
You know that, Will?
And where they sleep and all of that. So,
Did you make extra money, or a decent amount more than the average enlisted person?
well, no, we had our regular rank money when it came in. And finally, they just passed checks out. After a few years in the Navy, we got cash at first, but then the checks rolled off like all other things do. And,
Do you remember how much money you'd make a month or
no, we
weekly?
didn't know how much money we'd make for that particular rank. Although we learned, it wasn't long, they'd call you in and say, now, you're so-and-so, you have to pay for your meals, you have to do this, you have to do that, and so forth and so forth, it costs money. And, oh yes, we had to pay for them. Now, when we were settled at an individual place we were gonna work, but individual hospital, they had a little card with 31 days on it. And there was a senior enlisted personnel in charge of that. And usually it was first class or second class or something. That was a hire between chief and he would take that little, he had that little card, he knew every one of us. And we'd go in and he'd say, you gonna have dinner here tonight? Yes, I am. Okay. And when I came out, he punched that little card. At the end of the month, you paid for every day of that food. If it was nighttime, it didn't make any difference. They put it down to the little card for 3 meals every day. It was pretty good food though. So we even had to pay the night shift. We worked night shift when I first went in, one night out of every month, 1 week out of every month till we, were indoctrinated well enough to be on your own.
No, she is.
That took a while.
Take a message.
But,
Thank you.
and you had a training period, just like a hospital corpsman. They don't just go up there and go to work. They have a training period about medications, about surgeries, about blah, 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 blah. And sometimes that took 2 or 3 weeks. I've had some from New Jersey that couldn't even talk hardly. They were so firm, I couldn't even get them to talk. Couldn't spell. Chief nurse called me in one day and said, Miss Smith, I'm gonna make a teacher out of you. I said, what'd you say, ma'am? And she said, I want you to take these guys from New Jersey. I knew exactly what was coming, because I've gone through their little write-ups all the time. So I said, I want you to take these boys and make good corpsmen out of them. I said, well, you know, Captain, they can't read and write. Are you aware of that? And she said, no, I'm not. But I said, well, I'm telling you, they can't spell. I said, you should go through their nurse's notes. I had to go through their nurse's notes before they were permitted to do anything. Couldn't spell 50 cents. And I said, now, do you know how to count up to 20 or blah, blah, blah? They're all high school graduates now from
New Jersey.
For heaven's sakes, I learned to spell in 1st and 2nd grade. And so I had, they're usually about 15 in a class. Practically all of them from New Jersey. I have nothing against New Jersey, but I wish they'd have taught them how to read, write, and arithmetic. Because I wasn't smart in arithmetic, but I knew how to do the drugs pretty good. And I'd have to go through hundreds of charts, and it gives you a headache to see if John and Richard and so forth were spelling correctly, or if they knew how to make a sentence, or if they knew what you meant when you said the man's got a headache, or you need to give him an aspirin. They didn't know about that. And it took me a long time to, and I said, well, now, Commander, I paid for my own education and things. Why aren't the girls at the Navy, the Navy educated a lot of them. Maybe sent them through good schools like in New York or wherever. And I said, I don't quite understand this. And she says, well, they have to be taught and I want you to teach them. That was it. Don't give me any guff. So I thought, okay. But I spent more time with those guys from New Jersey than the rest of the whole Navy. And going through the charts is hard to do because they got all these crazy signals and certain diseases have certain thing and something. I never did. Sometimes they never did learn. I said, well, you just can't teach them. If you want somebody else to do, that's fine. But they don't know how to spell, speak. And they said, Miss Smith, I ain't got no so-and-so. I said, well, you'd better get some so-and-so because I've got to write a fitness report on you and I can fix you up.
So after Korea, where did you go from there? I know you served for a long time.
United States. I went to Guam and I went to Washington, D.C. for 4.5 years. Now, the officer there told me that had never happened, ever, and they doubted it would ever happen again. But my sister and I both went. And we were there, had a nice apartment, and they were so good to us. But my sister was a terrific nurse. She's very, very smart, very smart. Those doctors knew she was going to catch on to their foolishness quicker than anything. And she said, but doctor, so-and-so and so. Oh, that's right, you're right, Miss Smith. He said, of course I was right. So,
Viv, I want to ask you a question that I should know the answer to, but now how much difference in age were you and Mildred?
2 years.
2 years, okay.
Wasn't ever one of us. All
Okay.
the girls were 2 years. And I don't know about these two.
Yeah, 2 years apart.
I know I carried him around on my hip when I was just a little girl, and he had big long legs, and his feet were hitting the ground. He don't believe that, but that's the truth.
Now, did both of y'all end up going to the same nursing school, or?
They all went to
Yeah,
same
but different
nursing school.
times. Different times. We went to different universities.
Now, was that over at Rosebud, or?
Yeah.
Yes, but we and affiliated with the university. Mildred went to the most famous one in the country. She went to
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. He has to furnish some places at Old Broccoli, and that's one of the oldest hospitals. And she got a fine education, run with the Catholic Church, and the sisters were so good to her. All the sisters were so busy taking care of Miss Smith, and then somebody said, well, she was sick. She had a bad eye and all this sort of stuff. Sister Marie Helen took better care of her than the good Lord takes of us, probably. But, she did. She was a grand nurse. She's a good nurse. But,
Her Nan went to Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Catherine went to
y'all getting tired?
Well, I'm just trying to finish the story. So you.
So we went to Washington D.C. and we had 4.5 years there, which is very unusual, and we loved it. I like history, and we went to all the places, in Virginia and Washington, went all to the places that are open, shows all these different things, and all. And I really enjoyed that. That was good. And of course, we had already been to New York, but I guess I enjoyed the hospital ship more than any of the rest of the stuff. And we were sent to Charleston 2 different times. One time we stayed 4 years. So I thought, Mildred, we have got to go on somewhere sometime. We've been here a long time. So I knew this Jewish girl. She had been our supervisor when we first went in the Navy, and she was good to us. So she told the chief nurse, said, you take all the rest of the nurses and I'm going to go to bed and leave me the Smith nurses, and we'll run this hospital. But anyway, I'd known her a long, long time, so she was the head of the nursing service at that time. So I called her and I told her my situation, that we'd been there about 4 years and it was about time to move on. She said, well, can you sit tight for about 3 weeks? And I said, whoa, sure. And that's when we got the orders to Washington. She picked us direct to go to Washington, and that's where we went. She was a lovely person, and I always liked her so much that I'd see her in different duty stations when we'd be. But I like Camp Lejeune, but it's isolated. You don't know where Camp Lejeune is. Way over on the East Coast, very isolated. And it was a pretty good sized place. And they had, the only thing that we had for entertainment was swimming. I couldn't swim a lick. I never have to swim. I'm out in the middle of the Pacific. I can't swim a stroke. So they're going to teach us how to swim. I said, well, okay, you do that up. Had a Navy chief, and he said, I'm going to take these 2 Smith girls and teach them how to swim. He never did. We did everything but swim. First we had to do marching, like the sailors do. It was too fun. And you're supposed to stop at a certain point and make time. Let's move your feet up and down. every time. That poor sailor, that poor chief. I dodged whatever he had there for us to stop at and go around it. And no, he'd say, throw up his hand. No, Miss Smith, you're supposed to make time. Well, it took me a while to learn what make time. Well, let's stand still and move your feet. But anyway, the chief became mine and Miller's great friend. And every duty station we went to, guess who would meet us? That was the chief. And he was full of it. He was he's a foreign extraction, but went to.
So you were discharged in 74?
Pardon?
You were discharged in 1974, is that right?
Discharged,
Yes, ma'am. So what?
That's when we would start drawing retired pay.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, when you retire, your salary goes down
Right.
considerably. But it was a pretty good retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good retirement.
You just your time was up, so you just decided to.
Yeah, well, my time wasn't up. I could stay another 20 years, but
Or
I've
you
been
could stay
old
10
then.
more years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was young enough that I could get a job in civilian life, though I didn't. I did for a while, but it was in the doctor's office. I just did physicals and x-rays or, you know, whatever needed to be done. I used to do that at night because a lot of the people worked during the daytime and they'd have to have a physical for school or for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. But I never worked in a hospital much after I got out of the Navy.
Really?
So it was, you know, it's awfully strange. And he can admit to the fact that when you get out of the military, you're a little bit lost.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know. But I was starting to tell you when we went to Washington, they said, get dressed in the uniform, be sure you got your cap and gloves and all this sort of stuff. You're going to right in the middle of this country's stuff, you know. So I said, okay, Miller, let's get this all together. And so we were able to find a place in Virginia to live, and it was very nice. But you had to drive into Washington every morning, and if you ever have driven in Washington, you know what I mean. But Mildred was the driver. I told her half, but she was the driver. So I said, Mildred, I wonder who in the world will meet us at Washington, D.C. I said, we don't know anybody in Washington, D.C., just that its president is so-and-so. John F. Kennedy, I'll tell you about him. But anyway, and I heard this voice, and I said, oh, my Lord, guess who that is? That's the chief. That's the training chief. He went out there, he's dressed in blues, gave us each a big hug, said, oh, I'm so glad to see somebody I know. Well, Chief, you've known us all our lives. And he said, I know, but I like you still. Anything we needed, anywhere we needed to go, the chief would take care of it for us. Our diets, whatever we happened to need, the chief was right there. And he was Italian, and his eyes just sort of sparkled. He's dark skinned and very black hair. But everywhere we went, there was Chiefy, and he'd meet us at the airport or whatever we needed. But I haven't seen his obituary. I saw my captain's obituary in the paper that I get. But President Kennedy was the president, and I worked for Dr. Clark, and our office was on the in the front of the building where the president had to come in, and everything was stopped when the president was coming. He had a condition; he had to come in every morning to be treated. So,
okay, well, I appreciate that.
Doctor and I would be in our office and we'd put the shade up, and when the president came by, I would just wave at him back and just smile. So when he went out, he'd stop his car, and I'd just wave, and the doctor too would just wave, and they'd start his car and go on. He came every morning.
Wow.
So anyhow, but he seemed like a very sweet man. I never met him, you know. But other than just to wave at him.
Right.
But it's nice.
Well, Ms. Smith, I thank you for your service and
Well-
this interview.
well,
letting me interview you.
It's not much, but it's what I know.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I know a lot more.